So we first drove through Texas on the way back from Area 51, or on the way from, we went LA, Area 51, Texas, and then a Hasbro meeting we had like back in 2004.
Right.
And this was when Ugly Doll was going to be a Cartoon Network show.
Okay.
And,
Yes.
and it, for a little while, it was going to be a good one. And it was with Sam Register, who then left Cartoon Network exactly at.
All right, we're live.
Oh,
here we go.
Okay.
We are live.
Okay, hello everybody. Are you singing the song?
Yeah, but like, we're talking about barbecue in Texas right now,
right?
You know, and like you're saying that, like, as you were making your way from Area 51 to Texas, like it was a barbecue wasteland.
No, yeah, well, no. Well, when we first made it, first time in Texas ever, years ago, 2004, we drove through Houston, I think it was, and there was like the cowboy hats and everything that goes along with it, and we found amazing barbecue along the way, like maybe two stops, and like like a neon of the boot kicking something outside.
Yeah,
it was great. It was really great. So then when we thought, oh, we're going to Dallas, actually we knew we were going to move here. We're about an hour and a half north of Dallas, just outside a town called McKinney, and we're like, if it's really quiet at night, you can hear cows. We're all
and I'm sure you can see stars too.
Wait,
right?
Yeah.
Why did you move that far?
Well, we knew well, because of the schools. We did a lot of research, we thought, and we needed to be in Dallas for a little. 2 years ago, we needed to be in Dallas, we thought. And so we made a point to come here. We were in Korea. We were very happy. There was a hard choice, but we thought, so there is barbecue. The first 2 weeks that we were here, we went to all the barbecue places you could go to.
Nice.
A couple of them are pretty good, but I don't want to say. I just we haven't been back since. We do love it here. I just want to, as a if there's anyone listening who's from Texas, because they're really passionate about, like, this place is amazing. It's like the American Tokyo, as far as like, it's super clean. People are really nice. It's super safe where we are. Just because cows aren't dangerous.
Yeah, but you don't have a vending machines right outside of your house.
That's where the similarities end. But the main, the first thing you hear out of people's mouth, oh, it sure was clean and safe, like that, and then okay.
Yeah. You don't have a Lawson's walking distance from you where you could get fried chicken bits.
Yeah, no. That's the one. Now my hand is shaking again because I can't go there as long as this is going on. I can't. I was supposed to be there now. I'm not going.
I have a friend who literally like flew out, like, got fed up with like the quarantine situation in Los Angeles and flew out to Japan. And then like literally like the next day, while they were there, they got an email, like news notification, like basically saying like, look, if you're an American citizen, get out, the fuck back now.
That was just a few days ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they like, and I was messaging them like while they're on the plane back to the States. And I was just like, oh man, all that fried chicken at Lawson's.
Missed out big time, man.
All that hot tea in the vending machine.
Yeah.
So
you can go down a long list.
Yeah. Well, those are just the. I imagine like if I was in Japan right now and I was shut in, those would be my best friends.
Yes,
vending machines.
You ever been shut in like short term, like a typhoon? Like those are really fun. Like where you can ride it out and you go down and then grab stuff and go back up and building moves. It's amazing.
Oh, really?
But I don't know if I'd be able to handle like this long. No.
I especially like in a really like small claustrophobic Japanese like apartment or something like that. Like
sure, that's what I meant, right? Like
it would like. Eat me alive. But anyways, this is Robot and the fucking Bear.
that was a long intro.
This is Eric Nakamura, and we got our guest David Horvath of Uglydoll.
Yes.
Hello. It is, I don't know how many days. It's our third week, I think, of being shut in.
Yes, it is.
Totally shut in.
We are finally like getting back on the ball. We were trying to, I think we tried to write it out for a couple weeks, thinking like, okay, a couple weeks, we could do this. And now we are like, locked into the Zoom. I have a
Yeah.
feeling the Zoom logo is probably going to show up on the bottom right-hand corner of our
I don't think
stream.
so. Actually, no.
Yeah, I
No?
don't see any
I don't think
logos. They
so.
might put it later, like you click.
Yeah, I think they
I
put it
agree.
in later.
Oh, they
Yeah,
do. Okay.
like
they'll
that,
put a lot of stuff later. You click
yeah.
to agree when you
Yeah, it's all right.
do all kinds of stuff.
But how's
Hey.
everyone doing?
We're fine. I'm fine.
Fine?
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm
Lockdown
good.
here is like what is lockdown for you? What is your day to day now, man? Or do you have one?
I
Like
do.
what is the routine now that you just can't even go out?
Oh, so I have a trouble sleeping. So like lately, so I've been getting up at like 5 or 6 a.m.
Oh wow.
So and I maybe some days I'll sleep earlier, but then I might sleep at midnight or something. Sometimes later, and then I'll wake up at 5 or something. So I've been doing that almost every day, except I did a 12-hour sleep yesterday, which was the longest, but I took medicine for that.
Oh wow.
But then every day, back today, 5 a.m. again. So
Like you were literally doping for your sleep?
yeah.
Nice.
Well, it's a little bit of stress, man. So, but then,
yeah.
so, I do still wake up, get ready to go, pretend it's work. I have my coffee and I get up early and I'm checking out the news, of course. Then I go to GR and I go there for, I don't even know, man, sometimes 3 hours in the morning, sometimes less, but I'm jamming, going fast as I can to do all the stuff I need to do. And then I try to get out before 11 a.m. And then I come back home and work on more little things here and there. But I've been keeping pretty busy. Maybe the last couple of days less, but overall, no, I've been keeping pretty busy.
You guys still fulfilling like online orders?
Oh, sure. A little bit. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's better than normal or anything like that. I mean, it's sympathy purchases, man. I think. So
hey, at least you're getting sympathy. That's pretty great.
So there is that, but no, I'm keeping I feel like I'm very busy. I'm very aware of what time of the day it is all the time, and I know when the weekend is. I mean, like there's some people saying, "God, every day just seems like the same," and it's like all the same, and the time's the same. But I'm like, no, I'm really aware what day of the week and what's going on. I'm pretty much no, I'm on top of it. I would say I feel more stressed out, but I'm as busy as normal, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all. I'm trying to get better out of all this, believe it or not. How is that supposed to happen? I don't know, but that's the plan. So I do exercise every day.
That's great.
Yeah, so I do a workout every day too, just about.
You stay at home for that, or do you run around outside and risk dodging the apocalypse?
I stay at home. I'm inside doing that. So yeah. So I'm trying to keep pretty disciplined, and I'm trying to clean up too at the same time, which is a lot of work in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's all. That's how I'm kind of seeing it as a chance of improvement, not really just this thing of where everything's going to be fucked up, so I'm just going to let it be. But no, I'm trying to improve through all this. That's my plan.
It's a great attitude.
That's a really good attitude.
That's all I got. But yeah.
That's a very good attitude
for me. This is like how my life has always been. Always is. Except I just go out less and I eat out less.
Well, it's always the apocalypse.
Exactly. Well, I mean, like I like being in my space. I love being in my space. So and it just I get to create excuses for myself. Like, oh, I didn't get that project done. Coronavirus.
Yeah, all the stuff that requires you being at home and really concentrating. I
couldn't do it. COVID-19, So, like I have an excuse now for a lot of things, which I haven't really fully taken advantage of, simply because, like, I mean, like there's a lot of things on my mind, obviously, like concerning, like, how the rest of this year is going to work out. Especially with, like, the fact that so many shows are, like, so many of my plans are kind of shuttering right now because of the situation, and that's like, basically where a huge chunk of my finances come from, like art shows and events,
Yep.
So like
welcome to everybody's life.
Right, yeah, true, but
sucks.
like for me it's like I think it's like and most artists, it's a pretty big gamble we generally take.
I think so.
because like, we are like, we don't like ever take, I don't think any of us, any artists really took into consideration what would happen like in a global pandemic. Maybe because this is the first global pandemic in most of our younger lives.
Right. Like you can assess the risks, and you can kind of see, okay, I might have to struggle. This might be painful. This might all
Mhm,
be painful. But you don't
mhm.
imagine, you still imagine the world being there where you can operate in it at least.
Right.
You can suffer in it too. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah, yeah.
picture
Like there's
best and
always
worst
a
case
certain
scenario.
room to a little bit of give and take, when it comes to like general like societal issues. But like something like this is just kind of like, wow, like, I mean, I'm glad galleries are still trying to, hustle and push
Yep.
and do something because they have to keep their doors open too.
Dude, we have rent with no walk-in customers.
Right.
Maybe some galleries don't need any walk-in customers, but no, there's some. Like I have a retail store. I haven't had a sale there in a month. So you know what
Wow.
I'm saying? No one's bought
Well,
anything there in a month. So it's like there's no money walking in the door. It's just whatever happens online is got to rescue it all. So
yeah, you
it's a tough
gotta
one.
like beef up the online store, I guess,
Yeah, but
to
for that, you still have to have certain things. I mean, there are certain things people aren't going to buy right now.
right,
It's
right.
just kind of one of those things. Like, yeah, it's one of those things. You just have to have the things people want, and not everyone's going to want everything. So
Well,
it's
we're in
tough.
that reaction
Yeah,
phase, right? Where every single person at all levels is like first freeze, and then am I going to be able to keep doing what I like doing at this level, this level, this level, this level? I
yeah.
guess. I mean, that's
Like
what I immediately
like
started.
our blind box is this hot item right now. Like, oh man, I'm stuck in. I'm gonna buy a bunch of blind boxes. I don't think so. Like
Yeah.
somebody is out there buying it, but not. That's not hot, man. That's not the
There's
hot
like
thing.
one chase figure guy
Yeah,
per country who's like, I'm gonna,
yeah. No,
Mm,
everyone else is like, yeah, should I have collected all of these for the last year?
maybe
Dang,
it
right.
might be the opposite.
I wish I
Yeah,
had a heads up, man. I would have not bought anything for a year or two or 10.
I've got 600 Funko Pops, man. What am I gonna do?
Sure.
It's kind
Yeah,
of like
that's
that, right?
that's
It's
that's
like
a like an empire with
it's like
the
what? Oh, I'm gonna use
VM.
my this. I'm hungry. What am I gonna do? I have 600 Funko Pops. The
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
fuck?
yeah. What is eBay like right now? Is there? I don't know. If you've got the rare stuff right now, maybe it's pretty tricky.
You might be okay though. There's always the higher end of all sales. Like people are gonna buy something that's expensive because they have
Sure,
a lot of money, but
Mhm.
maybe
sure,
that like low middle might be kind of hurting. You
sure. If
know?
there's a certain percentage of people in the Hollywood Hills who can make rent for the next year, they're probably more like swooping down. Like if
Yeah,
there's a
no. This is
Funko
the
Pop
this is a
collector,
chance right now. This is the
yeah,
opportunity where people are fucking hungry and broke and fired
yeah,
and
right.
laid
You're
off
reaching
or
out to that Star
furloughed.
Wars collector on Instagram who likes to show off that full room of all the 12 backs, and you're like, hey, you still hold on to all those, huh?
Yeah.
You still feeling it the same way, right?
Yeah.
I'll call you in a month.
Yeah. It's like that.
That's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're in Texas, David. So how are things over there?
So we moved here 2 years ago to work on the Ugly Doll movie. The actual animation was done in Dallas, so we wanted
Hmm.
to be in close by, and we started looking at schools and where the best schools are. And coming from South Korea, we were very torn. We still talk about moving back all the time, maybe
Wow.
even this January.
That's the safest place to be now, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We were thinking. Well, we almost brought our in-laws here. My in-laws, Sunman's parents here,
Mhm.
and then we would now realize,
That's
oh, good thing we didn't. We probably
yeah.
maybe should have gone there. Maybe.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
But we're
No.
we're okay here physically. I guess so far we don't go out. We don't meet other. We haven't met anyone outside just my two kids, Sunmin and I, in since like end of January.
Mm.
Wow.
Uh, we haven't physically gone out anywhere at all since end of January.
Mhm.
Like as soon as we saw those first scary videos, like middle January, coming out of like where people were on the street falling down and having seizures. I don't even know if the seizure videos were related, but just those all got grouped in there.
Right.
And I started buying everything we needed like that, right, when there was plenty of just everything. And
Yeah.
I went real slow, like just because toilet paper here's huge. So
Texas, you go big.
buy 2 and they're sold out. So I didn't want to be, but I did little by little, and then we were done. Went down to the Korean market. And I thought, this is not going to stay.
Wait, there's a Korean market up there.
Yeah, about an hour from here. There's
An
pretty good-
hour.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Well, I guess
well,
I mean,
there's an
Yeah.
H Mart. Yeah, in Plano, is it officially? I don't remember.
there's a large Korean community out there.
Yeah. There's some good Korean restaurants for sure. Yeah.
Oh.
When
Were
we
you-
first got here, we started seeking out all these places, and then we just, like, after 4 or 5 months of that, and just how far it really is, it was like Korean market trip, Korean market food court while we're there, and my kids go to a Korean art school and piano school there, like right down there.
Oh, nice.
So we'll do the shopping while we get them into their art school and piano school. We've been doing that for 2 years.
Right.
And we see them. I mean, we haven't been over there since January. I don't think they're open.
Right.
But I was getting masks from the in-laws from Korea back in January, and we sent most of them back because we were so worried about them.
Yeah.
But then we were.
Wah, wah.
So I mean, we don't really go anywhere anyway.
So why is it that why is the animation in Dallas of all places?
Oh, there's a place, Real FX, a studio out there in Dallas that they're really good.
That's not the Rodriguez one. That's not.
No, he is here, but he's in he's near Austin.
Yeah.
Well, he was originally going to be our director, so we met with him. I flew over there from LA a few times, but then once Real FX was assigned the actual movie for they did pretty much all of it. Then we thought, well, we should at least be nearby instead of just having to fly all the time. And then they kind of, if you're flying there, it's more like, here's a bunch of stuff after it's too late, and that we'd love to see, and more like you have to set it up and it's scheduled, and whereas we could just pop in and see how things are going, etc. And then my kids just fell in love with their school here. They really, I mean, I was really worried about taking them out of school from Korea to a huge change from Seoul to they were going to an international school in Seoul, and then suddenly here to these very small public schools, which are really actually fantastic. And one of the best parts of being here. So we decided to just stay here as long as we could because they were so happy here.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
But there is nothing here. So we don't really we don't go out. We don't go to restaurants. There's one Thai restaurant that we'll go to, and that's sort of like decreased in frequency anyway.
Right.
So we just work at home, and that's it, man. I wake up at like 4, go to the gym, run around a little bit.
4? Did you say 4?
Yeah, 4. Well,
Holy shit.
not anymore. This has changed everything. But for the last 2 years, it was get up at 4, do that, work until they're awake at 6:30. I take them to school, drop them off, go back to the gym, work more, pick them up at school, and then once I came home from picking them up, that was it. That was our whole life. And then we would go to Target or go drive around nature to see the cows or something.
Wow.
Wow.
So wait, take us through the movie. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think so.
Because I don't know if people have ever heard.
I didn't see it, so
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I saw it with Eric.
It did. It didn't seem like I haven't been really into anime, like CG animation lately. I'm still a 2D, cell animation kind of guy, which is the reason why I watch anime. So I apologize.
Oh, and I know we know what the movie's kind of about, but more so like the background of
process,
it all.
yeah.
Yeah, the background.
For us, the process was wow. Like right when we started Uglydoll, I was sleeping on my sister's floor in Sherman Oaks under her fish tank when we first started, and Sunmin was still in Korea. And Eric put us in Giant Robot, like in the Ryan McGinnis issue, right? And then upgraded. This meeting has been upgraded. Thank you.
To what? That's interesting. Okay.
Upgrade. Okay, so they do listen. All right. So then we got a call from Linda Saminsky, who at the time was at Cartoon Network, and she was an executive there, a development executive, or an anime, like a producer. And she wanted to talk about. I guess she liked the material in the Uglydoll material in Giant Robot and wanted to talk more. But then by the time I got to go talk to her, she was leaving to go become the top person at PBS, where she still is now. And then she was replaced by someone, this guy, Sam Register, who did the Puffy Ayumi show.
Wow.
and he
That's
did a
also
lot of
wow.
huge. He did like Teen Titans, I think. Well, he did all yeah, and then he left. So we were with him. Ugly Doll was at Cartoon Network for a little while, and it was going really well. But
Wait, what
then
year was that?
this was 2003 or four,
So this is
like right in the
way,
beginning.
way long ago.
Yeah, this
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
meeting
Okay.
them before we actually even really started putting out the factory versions.
Right.
Like this was right when we placed that first ad in Giant Robot where they're kind of like opening, they're like looking in the copy machine.
Mhm.
Right.
There's a copy machine. There's one where they were looking in a refrigerator. Like right during those issues is when we were meeting with Cartoon Network.
Wow.
So I moved to New York. I moved to New York, but then it was with Cartoon. But then Sam Register had to go, left. He became like the big guy at Warner Brothers Animation, and I think he still is. And so it went from that to then being a potential movie with Illumination. We met Chris Meledandri soon after this. It was maybe 2007 or
And
6.
Illumination is big for what are those things called?
Minions.
Minions, yeah.
Yes.
I can't even. It's like I'll go like this. It's a. You know what I'm talking
Yellow
about?
thing. It's a pill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. The
Well,
Minions.
the main guy behind Minions, Chris Meledandri, was when we first met him. He was at Blue Sky, which was the animation company at Fox, right? And he was doing Ice Age and Robots, and I think he was just working on Horton Hears a Who when we first met him. Him and John Cohen, and then they left to form Illumination, and so we met with them in the very early, super early days. And that's when our Ugly guidebooks came out, and he kind of fell in love with those, and then we just kept talking and did a deal with him and worked with him. In fact, we got a house. We were living in Korea at the time, and we bought a place in LA just so that we could be there to work closely with him. We even found a place where, because Sunmin and I were writing the whole thing, where we found a place where we could have a separate office at home that was kind of away and no windows, and where we could kind of like storyboard the whole thing out
Wow.
in the room. And yeah, we worked on that quite intensely for many years. And then yeah, I think it was going really well until I think that then Minions came. Despicable Me, right? That was the first Minions movie.
Yes.
And it was going really well until it wasn't. And I think at that time Illumination then either was acquired fully by Universal. I don't remember how it worked exactly. But right when my son was born, the top guy at Universal was he was no longer at Universal, and he called us. And then our movie also went away. It was like Despicable Me had such a huge hit that their entire future slate had changed dramatically. I think, at least that's, I didn't hear from them directly, but just after hearing what happened.
Did the Minions copy the eyes of an ugly doll?
No,
Look
I'm not
over-
allowed to say either
Look,
way.
look right over your shoulder, right at your shoulder. Oh, that looks. Just change the head to a rounder pill and.
This? Oh, this is Wedgehead. This is not a Minion.
I know, but it just imagine if you
I'm
put that.
trying to remember Minion eyes.
My only memory of Minion is, what if that head was perfectly round and Wedgehead was round first?
Oh! You mean the ugly worms with the hair? Like, yeah, but they were green and they didn't have goggles, so it's completely different.
Okay. Anyway,
but
there's a similar. There's a. Who
English.
made Minions? Was that just some is that an individual artist, or is that just some random?
The original version of Despicable Me, as I understand it, I forgot his name now and where he's from, but it did not have Minions in it. I think those were the brainchild of is it called MacGuff, the French animation company that Illumination ultimately acquired, and then now still works with and uses. Like that's who they are.
Okay, so then what happened? Because this is only 1/3 of the story.
So the main guy from Universal left, and then he contacted us soon after and said, "Well, I'm with other people starting this completely new studio, STX, and we still want the Ugly Doll movie, and we want it to be our first animated movie." And we had just after our movie didn't work, it was very hard. Honestly, it was very hard on Sunmin and I both. Like we loved being in Korea. We were going to stay in Korea, and we were kind of done. But we did want to work with Chris very much, so we moved for that. and when it didn't work, it was like, oh man, that was expensive. So we moved back to Korea, and we thought, okay, now we're super done, and I'm gonna go build like 2000. That was like 2014 summer. I thought, okay, I'm gonna focus on building Japan back up again. So work on Korea and expand Korea, and then apply everything that I've learned so far to grow Japan. I'm just going to do that, and then I'm very happy doing that. I love doing that. I love it there. I love the character culture and the business there, and that figuring that out. And I decided that's I don't know if I'm even good at it, but I enjoy it so much that I'm just going to force my way in it somehow. I don't care if it's like I'm the
Awesome.
last place person or not even last place, but I just want to exist in that world because it makes me happy. And that's what I need to be doing and not chasing movies. I'm not really a movie maker. So let's do that. And then of course immediately right when we unpacked, uh, STX called. And so Sunman and I were very involved with the Illumination project, very hands-on. So for that one, for STX, we more like all the relationships with STX and all of that was more our business partners on the New Jersey side, like the guys who did the actual sales and all that, like the logistics side. We thought, well, they didn't even really meet Chris more than once that whole time, and we would just update them on how it's going. And I think it's better if they have all these it was their contacts kind of in a way, really. And we just wanted to focus on building Japan and Korea, and that was more them. So
Wow.
we were more just like, well, we were pretty hands on with Robert Rodriguez early on, when his as his version was sort of forming. But really, even that was, I don't know how many, not that many meetings, just a few. But he had us over there for several, for a few days at a time. And now, oh, is there someone out? There's someone outside my door listening to me. Hold on a second. Yeah, no, just someone snuck a note. I thought it was a foot.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
Um, yeah, and then, but now it's I'm pausing so much because now we're really hands on in what we're working on now. That's still going very much. We're still working with STX, and I cannot even explain. Like we were going to have this whole thing come out now. That was the plan, I think, originally.
Or what whole thing?
Well, yeah, that's the problem. Now I don't know because it doesn't seem so. I think that it will continue,
What's
and
it?
I wish I could
Yeah,
say
what's it?
more about it. But
What's
there's
Like a show, a movie, or
oh well, there was a movie already, and then they
right,
had
right.
announced that there would be. I don't remember what they had announced about television or not.
Was it
So I
was it
don't
a show
remember.
on Hulu or something?
Yeah, I think that's been out there,
I
right?
think so. Yeah.
I hope
Well,
so.
you've written about it.
Okay, I've written about it, so that's
Yeah.
that part's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's fine to
But
keep
then
saying.
I wasn't sure
okay.
where that is at this moment.
Oh, I can't say it. That's the
Oh,
worst part. That's
but
the part.
is it being
Hey,
worked
let me
on?
go on a podcast so I can stutter and not tell you things that I'm not allowed to talk about anyway. Stuff like
Okay,
that.
well, let's
I
go back
always
to the
wanted to be
movie.
on this podcast. Oh.
Yeah.
No, let's go back to the movie. What did you think of it after all of that? What did you think of it?
Well, there were parts of it that we absolutely loved. We were very in love with everybody who was working on it. I can tell you, everybody who was working on it was super into it and absolutely loved what they were doing. So I think that's what we kind of fed off the most. I would fly from Korea and kind of stay at my, stay in LA for a few days, so I'm not completely jet lagged and I understand what I'm looking at. For the early stages, it was more like pop in a couple times a year to see how it's going. But once we moved out here and I was able to actually spend time, it was pretty interesting. It was pretty interesting to have that. I've had tons of meetings at every studio there is, but I've never really sat with the people who actually physically do the work and get this stuff done. Really, right?
Right.
So that part's been pretty fascinating. That was pretty fascinating to watch all that. Yeah, that was, I guess, a once in a lifetime. Like we're not really filmmakers, we're not animators, so we're never going to really have that much. I mean, who knows about the future, right?
Sure.
I think we're storytellers and we love characters and we love telling stories through our characters, but that we really got to be hands-on with actual animators and people in the animation industry.
Okay, so what would you do different next time? Like, let's say there's another one says, "Hey, we want to make an Ugly Doll movie." What would you do
Oh,
different?
so we about 6 months or so before the Ugly Doll movie came out, we were approached by another completely different studio who was interested in a lot of our other characters, which I also can't say a darn thing about. But that's been very hands-on. So it's been a very different experience. I think it's not really for movies, so it's been more intimate and a little more hands-on and a lot of work. I mean, I was really happy that even when I was going to Japan when we were in Korea last summer, I would land and then I had a little game with myself, like how long from my plane seat to the desk to start working in my room, right? At the hotel where I was stayed. And I got it down to like 40 minutes from plane seat to inside the room. Door
Wow.
closes. Stopwatch.
Navigate to the airport, get through everything, customs,
Yeah.
get
I
onto
had I had it like boom, 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 boom down. And that is gone. That
So,
but
so would you rather be more hands-on then on a movie project from now, or
yeah,
a
well,
whatever TV project?
the experience that we're currently going under is extremely hands-on, and still we want to be as collaborative as possible. That there is no such thing as like, well, this is going to be mine this time. That's I think that's not what we're interested in, because that's like that would be like me going down and not wanting to collaborate with the tin toys that we made, but then shut out the masters of tin toys. It would feel very wrong. So it's our universe, and we would kind of like, here's everything that we've made, and what do you guys all think of what would you think of doing with this sort of thing?
So I'm going to be the voice of whatever here, and this is coming from the guy who has not seen the movie, but has seen the trailers, and I kind of felt like the Ugly Doll, from what I gathered from the 1 minute and 20 seconds that I saw, was that it, to me, didn't feel like an Ugly Doll movie
Sure, of
in
course.
the vision of your vision, because
Yes.
I've seen your comics, I've seen your I've been following you in Giant, as a friend, and through Giant Robot Magazine before we even knew each other, for obviously over a decade, and your work definitely had this sense of whimsy and a very subtle, like, nihilistic kind of sense of humor, like,
Sure, yes.
permeating through it. And like, what I saw in the trailers, at least, kind of had was it just wasn't that, you
No,
know,
not at all.
you
Yes,
know,
of course. Yeah,
and
very.
and
I think had the Illumination version materialized and gone all the way through, it would have. I don't know if it would have been better, but it would have looked like that and come across that way, and it would have sounded like that. It was kind of going to be exactly pulled straight from the Ugly Guide's pages, right?
Wow.
mm,
And I think that could have been. I mean, for us, we thought with this one that we wanted to show how you would get there, because I think one thing that hurt us maybe with the original Illumination one was that we were just kind of cold starting from all of that,
mm,
and that, while appreciated by like maybe you and a few others, would have probably been like, what the f am I looking at, to a lot of people
right,
also. So we toiled with that, and we twisted and turned over that for years.
sure,
Like what is that you suddenly throw what we think, this version, right? The version that's just been there. What
mhm,
happens if you just throw that at people? Or can you show how you get to that point, which I think it turns out we'll be able to show. And I think as we go, especially with the projects that, if we keep going, would would get closer and closer and closer to that as we went. I don't want to call it an origin story. That sounds very overused, but something
It
where
kind of
like,
is. It
how
is.
how would it get to that point? How does it how would they even have that kind of humor and that sort of instead of just cold open with that and then risk, but I guess no matter what you open with, it's a giant risk, right? So we just
Right.
had to make the call at some point.
Yeah, I would almost love to see, like, like your drawings, the original style doodles that you did, become animated as two-dimension 2D, maybe in a CG animation kind of, world, but like
Sure,
that's how it's all done these days.
sure, sure.
Like, done in 2D, and like, and like just have like these like really kind of silly, but like, and like head scratchy kind of, you know punchlines that, like, I think, I when I think of, like, ugly doll is, like, would work, and like would probably I could see it being done in like very short, like TikTok-y kind of
Oh,
animations,
sure.
Like interstitials, right? Like kind of like interstitials. How The Simpsons started.
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Yeah, it's all really short bits.
I think that's just kind of the way we have to, like, I mean, like, you're obviously at a totally different, place with, the brand, and, I mean, you've had a fucking feature film with huge, like, celebrity voices, doing
Sure.
it. So, but like, do you think that, like, even something like that, like doing these shorter pieces, would that be a step back, or would it just be kind of or would it be more of an acknowledgement of where we are?
Sure, of course. I think, yeah, it's a great question. It's something that we would go back and forth with all the time, and still do.
Mhm.
Um, there's more on the way someday, and I wish I could say more, but I think well, for Ugly Doll specifically, I think that ultimately, if there are fans out there of the original content and the feeling and the vibe,
Mhm.
um, if hopefully it's coming, and I wish I could say in what capacity and when and what format and all that, and
Wow. Okay, wait. Does it continue with similar animation? You could probably say that part. Or
yeah,
does it
well,
look?
I think that's hard to also get in trouble and reveal, because then
That's a yes or no,
that's
man.
well, no, because yeah,
Well,
I
you
thought
said
so
no.
too.
You just said no. I heard that.
Well, I thought so too, but then, well, no meaning like a California type no, but like that kind of no, but
Oh, okay. I was
because
going
then
for it.
that also opens up discussions with the animation companies, and it means it actually. I wish I could even say I can't wait to come back and say, remember when you asked me a simple question about is it going to be 2D or 3D, and why that would matter to. Wait until I tell you why that matters to the type of people who you wouldn't even dream that it would matter to. Blow your mind.
Right.
I wish I could tell you.
You know what? How I'd like to see it animated. I would love to see it animated in stop motion with felted
That
um
would be pretty cool. Yeah,
skulls.
that would be really cool. That would be pretty cool.
Because it would, like, really emulate the look of the actual plushes, but like in a well, slightly more delicate kind of way, obviously. But like, I
That would
was
be
just
kind of neat. Like kind of South Parkish but you can actually see the fabric.
well, you probably haven't watched Beastars on
No, I haven't. I know that's important, but
Netflix.
I haven't watched it.
It's okay. I mean, like, it's just interesting. But like, they have it. They do their opening credit scenes with, it's all in, I think, probably, directed in Japan, but animated in Korea, or like, or Vietnam, or wherever they do these kind of wherever they do stop motion. But it's all felted, versions of
Bangladesh, man.
characters. Yeah, or
I,
Bangladesh,
I,
or Thailand, or somewhere
Oh,
like that. But like, and like, to see like David's characters, with a
I agree.
similar treatment would, like, be amazing.
sure, of
Make it
course.
happen, David.
Well, we've been very hard at work on in the animation world for the last year and a half, like we've never have before, and part of the we were supposed to have announced a whole bunch of stuff by now, and with this happening, and well, that yeah, it's going to have to wait. It'll have to wait, but we're super into it, as in involved in it and working in it in many capacities now.
Mm.
That's cool then. See, so Are you writing too a little bit, or are you not writing it at
We
all?
did we were so what I would do is when we were in Korea in the summer, I would go to Tokyo to then just go to a hotel to just be locked away so I could write and
Wow.
draw for weeks at a time, right?
I can
Without
never do that.
I
I'd
could
be
never
like
do
going
that.
crazy. In
well,
Tokyo, no. Here, yes. Tokyo,
but I
no.
wouldn't stay in Shibuya or like Shinjuku, like I would go
Doesn't fucking matter. It's
I know what you mean.
Japan.
Well, but it was
Yeah.
nice to then when you step out to take a break, it's there instead of, wherever. I mean,
Okay.
I really enjoyed working in Korea also, but there was brother-in-law calls me, let's go. Okay. And then father-in-law says, let's go. I gotta go. And there's a lot of, and then, just my kids on top of that, which, I want to go. I mean, I was very happy to go. That was the problem. Like everyone who called me was like, yeah, let's go.
Mhm.
Whereas where I was staying in Kamata, right by the Haneda airport, whenever I would tell someone from there that that's where I like staying, they would just like laugh and tease me. Why? But it's like perfect because now you'll never come visit me there. It's like, I could really get a lot of work done. So it was a great place to work and just be in the zone and get, I would get in one day I would do a week's worth of work that I would have done at home or in Korea. I really did. It was an intense summer for sure.
Wow. Never
So
even thought about that.
I
who
hope you'll
owns
hopefully get to see sooner than later what.
Hope so too.
Yeah.
So who owns Uglydoll now? Do you still own part of Uglydoll, or is that now owned by somebody else?
Sure.
Or
The movie is owned by STX. I don't own the movie. I didn't pay for it, so it's not mine. Yeah, I think whoever pays for whatever pays for owns it. Like even Critterbox still owns those molds, right?
right?
Those are theirs. Oh,
But you could still create new stuff with Ugly Dolls without any outside
there's a lot
approval.
of cool new stuff coming. I can guarantee you very very soon. And the stuff that we do ultimately in Japan this time, because I think it was very frustrating in 2015. We did a lot, but then you couldn't really get it in the States. Everything from the little train pass things to the Sanrio stuff that was actually made by Sanrio. I think there was one store that how they snuck them out. Japan, LA, I think got some, but this time we're gonna find a way to make it actually available to the real fans. For sure. But that's also all in the works. We'll see how it goes in Japan. It's getting like just starting now. I detect everyone I talk to over there is like, oh, it's a little more quiet outside, but still shops are still open, but we'll see.
Well, they just went into state of emergency yesterday, right?
Yeah, there's that.
Japan, yeah. And there's a lot of like in Japan. There's a lot of I guess some of the people I know who live there are saying weird stuff about it, saying how it's like still not being taken seriously, and that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
it's a big mess from what I understand. So we'll see what happens.
So tell me about how you I'm curious about strategies for entering the Asian markets.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because it's I always kind of consider like I'm especially considering like something that's more product driven. You definitely it's easier to insert yourself into it, but like at the same time, like I feel like a lot of Japanese collectibles and like character stuff, it's driven by this kind of what's the word, what are the words that I'm looking for here, some kind of like cult twist on the either the mythology or the culture or some kind of product that already is recognized as part of one of the prefectures or something like that.
Sure.
Like how does a white guy and a Korean woman come into Japan and like
Right.
go, look at what I'm doing.
Well, there's a few ways you could do it. I could tell you. There's only a few though, in my opinion. So there was something pretty crazy happening in New York when we first started, where people were going to Japan so that they could be perceived to be a big deal at home, and then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm sure you know this, but it was like in New York City, there were brands where you wanted to.
What's
What's that?
I saw Eric
We
just
lost him.
a drawing, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I think he was, I think he's using
He
it.
was like, I've heard this one before, and this is long. So I'll do the short version, and he'll come back like, what are you guys talking about? Aren't you on part 2? Oh.
No, so wait, okay, so you're so back in the early 2000s,
Right.
what was interesting in the United States became a novelty of sorts.
Well, if you had a brand you wanted to grow in the United States,
Mhm.
you needed to, I guess, well, it depends. If you were doing a razor brand, no. But like when you walk down Avenue A and there's A Life and these places, I'm talking about those brands maybe specifically.
Right.
I was walking around New York City, and in the Japanese bookstores that I've been going to since the 90s, there was Brutus and Popeye, these kind of fashion poppy. I don't even know if those magazines are still a thing anymore.
I don't think so.
But it seemed like the New York brands, everywhere from street apparel, to these character things and the very early character toy stuff,
Mhm.
they were making it a point. There were like cool hip editors from crazy hip fashion magazines in Japan who were visiting certain places in New York that they thought were cool and
Mm.
reporting about them.
Mm.
And you wanted your potential base in the States
Mhm.
to go to the Japanese bookstore and find these cool magazines and
Mhm.
see, that's the place on the corner on Avenue A and whatever avenue, street.
Right.
And you wanted your base in the States to find your stuff in those specific magazines because those kids are thinking that those magazines are the are the shit. And
Mhm.
but meanwhile, the reality is that in Japan, they're looking at the time 2003. It was like, well, we did that a little bit too. We kind of learned our lessons. So we made it a point to put Ugly Doll into Barney's New York's window, right?
Mm.
No matter what had to happen, we had to be in the window at Barney's
Right.
so that we could get into Tower Records Shibuya.
Right.
Tower Records Shibuya, and at the time, it's not true anymore. But there's still, you can just plug in things and switch things around, and it'll be the same story. I think.
Right.
Kind of is now. It's a little more detailed now because there's an iPhone now. But
Right. Yeah, and there's hype
free.
beast, and it costs $50,000 to get them to post something of yours. Blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
but well, kind of, or you can sidestep that still. Like we very much think that. Well, I'm going to jump around too much, but okay. Back then, it was. I think you get it though. That I wanted to grow my brand in the city. I needed to be seen in certain magazines because those kids here in the States, in New York, thought that if you're in there, that's it just means something to them. You start to
Right.
mean something to
It
them.
gives you credibility.
Yeah, credibility, and also they just and not to make it sound shallow or fake or trickery or anything like that. It was like I also like those like my experience of going to the Japanese bookstore and looking at all this stuff, and I really truly enjoyed absorbing all of this. Right,
Of course.
I didn't have enough money or for a plane trip or anything. Right, it was like that was the place where I went to go learn, and
Right.
so finding a brand there, it could really begin to mean something to me, and I would kind of bring it into my life because I'm finding it amongst all the stuff that I absolutely love and want to know so much more about. Right.
Sure.
So it's not just about plug in hip thing here and hip thing there, but to appear in the right place at the right time in a place where you mean something to people. Right.
Sure. Sure.
Because these people are going to church kind of. Right.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
you want to have your pamphlet there in the
Right,
in,
like yeah, like having something in undefeated on La Brea, like fucking like 10 years ago, meant
sure.
something. You know that.
When Eric first asked us to be in the store, and the store was very early,
Yeah.
for me, the store was like a physical manifestation of the magazine that I had fallen in love with years ago. Right.
Sure.
So it
Sure.
was like, are you kidding? Yeah, I'll put something in there. Like that's just, we took so many pictures of just them being there. We thought, well, that's what I'm going to have on my wall in 10 years, just this day. Right.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
that magazine, finding it when we were in New York still and at the Virgin Megastore and wherever, like I don't know if Forbidden Planet had it, but we'd be Forbidden Planet and then I'd go to Virgin Megastore, a block up on the corner
Yep.
before the movie, whatever. And his choices and the stuff that you put in there meant a lot. Like new stuff that I would discover thanks to Eric and his pulling here and there from, I don't know what the hell this stuff is. Wow. But then he'd show like J.R.O. Siebold or some children's book illustrator that I'd really loved since like,
Mm-hmm.
decades ago, or whatever it was. And it's just an incredible feeling to find things that you already love, and then these incredible things that you've never seen for the first time. And it becomes this emotional experience that forms who you are as a person.
Right.
And that's going on in Japan right now. There's the Asia market and then there's the Japanese market. And I think they're very different. And I don't treat them the same way. And for me, right now, at least in my opinion, the character business is all women, not female heavy, but like ladies, like not children, and not like children are.
Like female designers or female creators or female or like
Um,
it's feminine.
well, most I think most character goods in general in Japan are purchased mostly for the most part by women
Oh,
of
by
all walks
female
of life.
purchasers.
Yeah, like not guys.
Right. Right.
Maybe for the most part.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
and then where then you have to break them into different, like where are they finding them, and why does Snoopy keep insisting on putting the Marc Jacobs Snoopy in these certain, the Marui, I don't know how you say it, department store over here, and why at the Ginza Loft window over here.
Right.
And it's because those shoppers have this sort of emotional and very deep connection with these places, where these places, they know how picky these places are, and if you see something there, it's a
Mm.
big deal. It's a big
Yeah.
deal to you because you deeply care about, your life is kind of like built around something in a similar way, which I just described about my resonating with Giant Robot or the Japanese bookstore in the 90s sort of way.
I was actually in Japan in December, and I was hanging out with the couple that run Tokyo Fashion, and they took me around to some like of these like shopping areas, like outside of Harajuku, and I don't remember exactly where, but like, and they're like talking to me about like, oh, like all the clothing in this one area, which is like, and the place is packed, and then, and the clothing is stupidly expensive, and they're like, oh, it's all chosen by this one guy. And so it's like this one guy kind of represents, like, to the eyes of so many, like, you know,
Who's the
fashion
one guy?
snobs. I can't remember the names. It's
Oh,
I was just kind of like listening while staring, while trying to understand why these clothes are cool. And and yeah, it's like, like the decisions of the tastemaker are, well, I mean, I think they're as important now in Japan, as important in Japan as they are in maybe even the rest of the world. Of course, tastemakers vary from place to place.
Sure.
We call them influencers now in the United States, but like,
Mhm.
it's yeah, I mean, I think that is that what you're kind of working on, David? Are you kind of like, reaching out to particular people in Japan to promote to like get them to like fall in love with your product and
Sure.
share it that way, or are you muscling your way in, like,
It's it's a little of both. I think we've been going there consistently and frequently since maybe 2002 or 3.
Mhm.
And immediately we sought out our heroes like Toma and Devil Robots, and those that we knew from afar, who just we loved their work more than anything. A lot of it was, in Giant Robot. I had met Dihara in New York in the late 90s. There was a store this guy Toshiki owned called Zaka, that
Mhm.
he had some exhibitions with Dihara early on. But all these other, really like superheroes of ours, who
Mhm.
we just wanted to get to know or meet them just one time, and we just happened, like the Mad Barbarians, that couple.
Um,
Um,
I know the name. Yeah.
they
yeah.
they were they were right up there with, and all like the Sofubi makers and the guys who are still very active. And
Right.
even Don, Data
Don
Dub,
Dowdub. Yeah,
call him.
he
Yeah,
actually wants to be on the show. So
yeah, he's
Don
fantastic.
Kratzer,
He's
I
a
think.
great guy. That he's a great friend of ours that we met at a very, very early. I think we went to a Devil Robots exhibition in 2003, and he was there, and that's the first time we met him.
Mhm.
And I met Shin Kitai, from Devil Robots, the main illustrator,
Mm.
and within 20 seconds of meeting him, he pulled me and he said, "David, never, never number one. Okay, number two is okay, but never be number one." I was, "Oh, really? Okay, I have to talk to this person a lot more, right?" And so I always made it a point to. I was just so in love with everything about everything that everyone was doing there, that seeking out, like, I would talk to the guy who made it, and I can get all my information from just there. But after talking to him, I'd want to go still look to see if I could find his work in these little weird corners and windows and be thrilled that it's there. I could have just asked him where they are,
Mhm.
but I just loved the whole world that that the character that, like, this whole character world from top to bottom. I can't stop thinking about it. I
Right.
really
I
now.
did that same shit. Exactly the same things. I had a magazine, right? So the magazine was the easier way in to meet all the people who I really enjoyed, like Devil Robots, right? I interviewed them, got to really intimately see their studio and all that kind of stuff. So same thing. I did the exact same kind of steps. We've talked about it before, but
Yeah,
all the same steps you made, even in New York, I was there too. Like
yeah,
was I a month off from you or something? Like literally
yeah,
right around the same time you were going to some of those little stores, and we're not even going to name them.
yeah.
We could, but
Right.
what's the point? But no, I went to the exact same stores and explored all of that, and all of that, including Zaka, all of that was what opened Giant Robot store.
Yeah,
Right, it was like within 1 year of me going to all these places, right when you went,
that's
same
right.
exact time.
That's right.
Because I remember you mentioning what products they had and what the window looked like, and I was like, you know what? I was there for that same exact window
That's
display.
right. That's right.
So, yeah,
That's really true.
but yeah, all that opened up Giant Robot. So I just was trying to do all the same stuff that you saw.
Yeah, I remember. I
Same
remember
shit.
even you would report back on your trips from Japan, like, "Hey, I got this Ricoh GR camera." Oh, well, and then I would send you a picture. Same thing.
Yeah,
You're right. It's
it's
pretty
really,
great.
really, really odd. Yeah,
Yeah.
really odd and really awesome.
Well,
But yeah,
that I think then you didn't we didn't have to do too much brute force getting our foot in the door. I think because we just became very friendly with a lot of the people who, like, the Devil Robots guys introduced me to there's this thing, do you know this chain of stores called Loft? And they're kind of
sure,
like
they're
fancy
still
tchotchke
around.
stores.
Still, they're huge.
Yeah, they're huge, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah.
the
It was
locations.
around. It was around then, but yeah.
Yeah. So they had this few many in Shinjuku, run by Manabu, has this kind of rotating exhibition that moves from all the different 200 and some odd locations called Pop Box.
Wow.
And Pop Box would feature usually the core creators like Uamao and Devil Robots, and Dihara had a little Pop Box. It was like these 40 cubes, and every artist got a little cube that they would express their world in that cube, and then you could pull little products from underneath the cube. And then that
Wow.
traveling show would go to all. It's been going now for 15 years. We've been in many of them, and it's everyone who's involved with them for the most part, or involved the most, are all those heroes like T9G, Takuji, and all those guys. And so that he had been doing that for a long time. So and then Manabu produced our first made in Japan Sofubi, the Mothmans and the Flatwoods Monsters and all
Mhm.
those guys, right?
That was
And
no, I thought that was like what I thought that was like the Kaiju for grown-ups line, wasn't it?
hmm,
Was that all related somehow? It was all
yeah,
under
yeah,
the
yeah,
same
yeah.
roof, right? Yeah.
Yes, that was some that was somehow related, right? Well, then like Ishii would call to do the who I think the Uma ones in the red packaging. The small guys were still with Manabu, and then in the yellow, we
Yeah.
then that kind of branched off, and then we produced the Uglydoll Sufubi with them after them.
No, I every time I think of the Kaiju for grown-ups toy line, I keep thinking to myself that was Safubi before it blew up.
True,
Like,
that's true.
I remember like
It was hot then too,
because we were
though.
both in the
Well,
line.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yes,
like,
that's right. Yeah,
and I remember like, Ishii like kind of promoting the line, "I'll be done with Japanese vinyl," and I was just like, okay, Japanese. It's like vinyl's vinyl. So, and then like, and I think we both kind of like like had our own unique take on this idea of inserting kind of like which characters did you do for the kaiju for grown-ups?
It was just Mothman, Flatwoods Monster, and Chupacabra. Like the,
Yeah,
which
I
are big
think
over
that's
there,
clever
man.
because what you're inserted like this kind of Western like
Sure,
monster idea into
sure.
your own character designs. My thing was like, okay, what were my favorite kaiju movies? So I did like a Mecha Godzilla kind of sad
Yes.
bear thing,
Yeah, that was
and
awesome.
and then I did one other character, but like which was kind of built off of like inspired by the Super Sentai stuff, from Japan and AKA Power Rangers. But like, and yeah, and they came and then they kind of drifted away after like in the Yellow fell apart, I guess. I think Ishii's still out there. I think he's on my
Oh
like,
yeah,
and but like I don't
He's
think
doing some video stuff, or he was trying to do something at Designer Con maybe 2 years ago.
yeah. He's been working with
Came
this
through.
Japanese animation company I
That's it.
know for a
Yes.
while,
Yeah.
and he has a really cool, very tiny shop near Kamakura that specializes in old school, like the Tamiya RC cars. And
Oh,
it's like you
awesome.
walk in there and it's like being in an RC Tamiya shop from the 70s,
oh
but it's
wow.
Wow.
very small. It's amazing.
And he's into that? I guess he must be
Yeah.
into that. I
Yeah. And
didn't
like
know.
I
Okay.
guess his place is the place that kids go on the weekends to throw their duped out, whatever you call it, or whatever you call it, souped
That's
up
so cool.
RC cars and have them fly off the roof and blast apart in a million pieces. I don't know.
Wow. He probably has like an
Awesome.
entire track set up in his place or something like
The
that.
thing that blew us away about being able to do that was, first of all, just the access in general, which back then was nearly impossible. And we had up when they asked us to do it, we had literally just returned from, like the first couple of years, we've kind of backed off, but like Mandarake, all locations was the church, right, and the
Yeah.
cathedral, right,
Right.
and just I think our first, I don't remember what it was, but the very first trip, we had our manager at the time. We had a manager out there, and he took us to the one down in Shibuya in the basement.
Mhm.
And after the seizure calmed down, and I could see again, I see this giant cabinet of all the stuff that you could hardly find these things really back then. Especially this is all pre iPhone. I don't know if it's pre eBay, but it's pre everything you want. And now you use eBay as a visual database for if you just want to see what something looks like, right? Like this
Right.
is just everything's there. But the idea, like I would see stuff in Zaka that Toshiki had on Grand Street, or when he was on West Broadway. You'd be lucky enough to see 5 or 6 pieces, and he'd get 2 shipments a year.
Mhm.
Like that toy book magazine where you could maybe find on the back few pages some, or go to some of the
Oh,
concerts. Like that'd be that one guy who sold weird like yokai videos that are bootlegs, and then he'd have a couple of pieces. But it wasn't like suddenly Mandarake was like cabinets and cabinets of these things that we
Mhm.
held in high regard for our whole lives. And
it's sometimes cheap, like
yeah,
inexpensive
Not
compared to
yes,
what
expensive.
we're used to. We
yeah,
see it here, or like it's expensive. You go there and you're like, it's like 1/3 the price of what
one
it is
third the
here.
price, man.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
felt
Have you
terrible about every purchase I had ever made at that
I
point.
did the same thing. I got ripped off so many times here by people who lied
Yeah,
about.
right. Like
Yeah,
I have to have a
they
talk with 2
lied.
people right now. I'm going to get home and talk to somebody.
They
This is
lied.
not
Yeah,
the
they
price.
were saying this is rare, this is this, and oh my god, this is like impossible to get in Japan. This is a thing that would only be in auctions in Japan. And you go there and it's just
Right.
on the shelf at like a much cheaper price.
No,
And they lied.
they
That
lied,
was
man.
before the internet really equalized it.
They
But
lied.
yeah,
But
so
have
I got.
you been to you've been well, David, you've been back to Japan. Have you gone to the new Mandarake spot in
I
Akihabara?
I've not seen the one that was made to deal with the massive influx of now, right, the extra,
Yeah.
the super add-on one that was to deal with the
Yeah. I
giant.
went there, I stopped by there, and I mean, it's amazing. Like, it's like
Sure.
an entire,
Of
like,
course.
freaking like, it's the equivalent of, like, one of the floors in the Akihabara Mandarake, but, like,
Yes.
spread out, and it's all just Sofubi. It's all
Wow.
saw vinyl,
Wow,
you
I
know?
haven't been.
And
Wow.
the prices are insane because of the Chinese market.
Wow,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
But
changed it all.
yeah, changed everything.
So
You know?
that's interesting because there was a time when I think it almost didn't matter. which of course offended the shit out of me because it matters more than anything in the world. There's my children, and
Mhm.
then there's made in Japan, final,
Right.
and why, motherfucker.
Right.
but sorry, I told them no kids on the Instagram. I said this is how we're doing it,
That's true.
like
Yeah.
adults.
Mhm.
But the reason we wanted to make this stuff just because we love the figures, but just like we were huge Japanese toy maniacs in general anyway, and we
Mhm.
were always fascinated by that 1993 transition year where Bandai moved everything from Japan to Thailand,
Mm.
and the idea that we could be making toys in the exact place where those were made. Well, because they still make the Sufubi guys still make like Toy Fair samples for, even though it's all made in China, like the very first samples from Bandai or Takara Tomy, they'll go to those guys to get like samples made for the shows, and
Mhm.
then it gets made over there. So they still utilize some of the old same guys, but like
Mhm.
those are just for us having especially for me growing up with that stuff as a small kid. Um, to be standing in these places where this stuff was actually made, and then to be able to make this stuff there, and that and why that matters, and it really does matter to a lot of people who are there, and a lot of fans are very worried about the larger appeal, and because they were afraid what will happen with these creators that I've been following for decades. What's going to happen with them? And now I'm competing against the whole world to just get these little things that I love so much, and that all of that really we that drives us crazy, like in a good way. Like we love that concern, and it wasn't like, yo, my prices. It was more, no, it was just because they just love following these guys, and these are like the Beatles to these people, right?
Sure.
Who are
Sure.
just fanatic about them for decades. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting suddenly to hear Mandarake has an extra store to handle that.
That
Blew my mind. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's like literally just like a block or two from the subway or the train exit. So
Is it just all one level, or what?
all
Like when
one
you
level.
walk in,
It's
is it
all one
really,
level.
really all just like a Japanese? It's not like half robots and other stuff, or is it
Yep,
like
it's all Safubi, and it's broken
Wow.
down by artists, you know.
wow,
So,
wow,
you could like, go there and like it's just display case after display case after, I mean, just big long display cases, glass everywhere. And then like they have like these like this one designer. I don't even know who the designer is. I took pictures of it, but like they had like like super like premium stuff. They're like priced at like $1,600 a figure, like
wow.
in the front, and I was just like, Jesus.
What's that? Cause? What would
No,
that be?
no, it's some weird obscure like Japanese artist that like I don't think any of us who are limited in our knowledge of like the toy designers in,
Yes.
I don't think he's ever been to a designer con. I don't think he needs to go to a designer con. I think he
Mm,
probably just shows up at like, one of the Japanese cons and sells his stuff there, and it's all beautifully packaged in bamboo boxes, and
Wow.
with like, and they're beautiful. Like the painting on them is immaculate. So, which is
mm.
probably, and the casting looks really clean, and I was just like, okay, well, I mean, I would love to have that in my collection, but it's not $1,600, you know.
Sure.
Candy Bolton mentions it's someone possibly named Utsugio.
Yeah,
Do you know who
Candy would
that
know.
is?
Hey, Candy, I have no idea who's
Utsugio.
on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's okay.
yeah, Candy was there when
Yeah.
she's the one who showed me. I would not have known any of this if it wasn't for her.
Wait, when did that place open? When did that all start up? I missed it.
Candy Bolton will know.
Candy will know.
Bolton, when did it open?
I hadn't been in toy stores since maybe late July, and I hadn't been in Akihabara except to buy a phone in the whole last summer. So anything after September, I didn't go anywhere, near.
Yeah, we didn't. I haven't gone to Akihabara in a while, but I go to like Nakano Broadway, for example.
Mhm.
But every time I go, I feel like my duration to be in Nakano Broadway gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's less and less for me there, and maybe I need to go find other shops somewhere else. But the ones there are like, I feel like they're all picked through so hard that yeah.
Well, we had talked about being there when, I mean, you could hardly just find it. You even knowing that it existed in the first.
Oh, it was hard to find. Yeah. You didn't even know
was
where it was.
ridiculous.
It was kind
Right.
of hard. Yeah.
Did
No,
Candy
it
Now
goes.
answer how long it's been around for?
She did not. Maybe she.
Candy, you're
But
letting us down, Candy.
maybe. But I'm gonna assume it's probably within the last 2 or 3 years, maybe at the most.
I
Right?
guess I just missed it. So was
Oh,
it
she said. Oh, she said it opened in December 2019. So just
of
a few months
2000
ago.
of 19?
19?
And yeah,
Yeah,
no.
that's like 4 months ago
Oh
or 5.
wow. Oh, I haven't
Is
been.
that possible?
Huh?
When did you go to Japan, Luke?
December of 2019.
So it opened right then.
Yeah, I
You
guess
were there at the grand opening, bro.
No, I
Wow.
was at the grand opening. I was there
Okay.
like late November, but like yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
So
then
And,
it opened after you left. No, I'm kidding.
I'm like what?
Maybe she might have the wrong.
You mean opened after he
you know
left?
what?
Like, okay, he's gone.
Oh, you know what? Candy did say when you were there, that was like the grand opening.
Oh, okay,
there.
cool.
Yeah, you were there for this momentous occasion,
Wow.
and you didn't even know it.
And I
Wow.
didn't buy a thing.
So do we have to hurry up and get there before the closing, or what's gonna?
Well, apparently, like according to the people that that she and I were hanging out with, like it had already been picked through. They felt
Wow.
like you
Yeah.
know.
Like how do you refill that once someone swoops down on it? Now what do you do? lot of these
Find the poor chaps who
we
need
were
to sell
hanging
their
out
stuff.
with like a guy from we were hanging out with God, can't think of Awesome Toys and Remji, another artist, and like they had brought along a Chinese like reseller, like you know, and he was kind of going, it looks like it's all been picked through already.
Oh,
Wow.
interesting.
I have no
Wow,
idea.
Wow.
You know, so
That's kind of amazing.
Were
did
you
see,
doing the were you doing some of the shows around Asia? Like were you doing the Beijing Toy?
I was doing no, I did Beijing Toy Show once, and that was interesting. You know, yeah, like you know, talk about like you know needing like you know like the hype game behind your back. Like
Sure.
you know, I feel like you know you have to have like you know some sort of like you know WeChat superstar like like spreading your shit around that
Sure.
way. And then like but I stopped by I was in Singapore for doing was Culture Cartel, which was they're trying to turn into the Asian equivalent of a what the god what was that con called the Murakami Con,
Gay side?
Complex Con, like it's supposed to be the
Complex Con.
Oh,
you know, they wanted to be more of a like
Upscale.
street where
Street,
kind of
Mm.
counterculture kind of convention, and yeah, it was cool. That was cool. I met a lot of great people, you know, while I was out there out for that. I can't remember any of them, but you know, that's because my memory sucks. Like I'm listening to you, David. I am so impressed by like your ability to recollect names. Like
Oh
and
no.
so and so
No.
and so and so and
No,
so.
I talk fast enough so that you can't ask me the last names.
that's
But you know the
a good
person,
trick.
Smoke and mirrors, man.
you know, like I you know, like I'm, you know, so bad at, you know, name recollection.
Me
It's
too.
you know, it's like, and and then I'll like, you know, throw the blame onto them. Like, well, if you only left a better impression on me, I'd remember.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not a good signature. No. Yeah, I can go, oh, that guy, you show me the thing, and I'm like, oh, right, I know you.
You
Yeah.
know, but wait, like, so going back to you inserting your brand into Japan,
Yes.
like how, I mean, like what are the basic strategies to something like that?
So
This is gold right here.
yeah,
Just so you know,
yeah,
everybody listen.
there are certain stores that mean certain things to certain people. So more specifically, if you're in the toy character, and are you? You have to ask where. Well, what are you? Are you Beijing Toy Show? That's not the same thing. It's
Right.
not the same business model. I think. I
Yeah.
think, like you said, you need to be in with a certain hype and all that, which is wonderful as long as you have your underlying few thousand people who deeply care about you, because that's going to be half the people there. When I went to TTF, all I could really, it was beautiful and I
That's
loved the
Taiwan
whole
Toy
thing.
Fair. Yeah.
But a lot of people who didn't know what it is, just in line because they were paid to be there.
Right.
And that's wonderful for the short term. Not so. I don't personally like that for for the long term. And Japan for me was a very long term personal goal. But I do think that there is a strategy. I hate putting it that way,
Mm.
but I think getting your work into certain stores, if you're more product centric, I don't know like the gallery fine art route, but for pop culture and is yeah, then it gets into the cause discussion. Like, is cause that? Is it?
Oh,
But
we're
before we
going
go there,
there. I think we have to go there while we have you on the phone.
but
But like,
there are certain places where it would be good for you to have your bear, for example, if you
Mhm.
had really high quality items where your characters appear on them. There are certain stores where certain ladies who really drive the character business there. Once they interact and start to understand your work and why it's there at the places where they absolutely love the most,
Mhm.
and being there means something very specific to them but then they need to keep finding it there. And they need to keep finding it there in kind of like these soft touches and not
So warm up to it.
all
To
of a
warm up
sudden.
to it.
Was that?
To warm up to it.
Yes, and to warm up to it, and it sounds so like plotting and cheesy in a way, but it's I think because we just love all of the places where these all where all this occurs.
Mhm.
Like, have you ever been to like Character Street, yeah, under the Tokyo Station, right? You ever been to
Yes.
Character Street?
Yep.
I don't think
I have.
Yeah, it's like this massive. It's like every major character brand has their own little store, and there's
Yeah.
like
I don't. How temporary are those stores, or are they?
some of them have been around. Like the Tomika store's been there
Sure.
for forever. But then, yeah,
Yeah.
like some come and go characters that like
Yeah.
NHK's trying out in the morning, like they'll.
Yeah. There's like stores, small pop ups, kind of, but they're stores for characters, and they have product
Yeah,
up
there's
the
some
ass.
staples, but
Tons of product.
like
So
Tamagotchi store
yeah.
came and went, right? And
Yeah.
then they'll
So
put it back there,
yeah.
and then, but like that's one aspect of it, and that's like the major corporation character business model where you would want to be there because it's perceived by a certain way by tourists and by visitors who you want to have the international community find your stuff because you would like to enter their markets ultimately. So there's that part of it, which it costs a fortune to just be there. But then there's actually meaning something to the culture there specifically, where most of the dollars in character culture is spent anyway, right? A majority of the money to be made and the business to be had and the anything to do is there, but it's not at a show, it's not at a trade show or at a traveling circus or anything like that. It's more there. Um, I'd rather make a bunch of train pass holders and things that people who live there actually use than be at a booth. If you could do both, that'd be wonderful. But
Mhm.
if I had to focus in one for me, and I've kind of made a conscious decision to not be at all the BTS booths and all that, and try to mean something to people just getting through their day in the morning and trying, like be the thing that they want to hang off of their thing that they're carrying while they're going up the stairs and it's 90 degrees outside, right?
Mhm.
That became very important to me.
So you're
Really.
saying that like it's easier to enter the Japanese market by creating low price point items that can be able that like someone who like say has like 1,000 yen on them, can be able to just pick up and interact with, incorporate into their daily lives, and insert them yourself that way, and then
And
like kind of go in with the higher ticket items, like because like say like a 4,000 yen plush or something like that, or like is that like part of the strategy?
you could start with like watching what Snoopy does in Japan is a great learning tool. They're very wise and they're very smart with how they handle the higher end stuff. That they do have a bunch of low cost tchotchkes that you can pick up, but they put a very specific focus. Every time they release the $2 pen and clicky thing for $1 for 100 yen, for 100 to 1,000 yen, right? They make sure that they also release this really nice version of like the tote bag, but like the tote bag that is like, it's like more like $100 or whatever. Like the tote bags are a very popular character thing that you find just
Mm.
as you walk into many of these places, right? And they're like $10 or whatever, $20,
Mm.
$5.
Mhm.
But they'll make sure that for whatever they do at this price point, they're also putting out these really incredible, like temporary pop-ups at the window in the Cebu department store, or like another one to really watch is what's the one from Moomin? You know Moomin?
Sure. Yes.
So
Yeah, that's
can't
like
stand the
Tove
content,
Johansson.
don't
Yeah.
like the animations. I love the illustrations, but the products that they make specifically for Japan and how that's handled by their agency out there, and where
Yeah.
so they sell tons of these $5 and $10 mugs, but they balance that with these beautiful setups, and they make these I'm sure, very limited edition, like pillow characters, and lots in the $100. Uh, and so for quantities, they're probably selling tons of mugs and towels and little like the tenugui and whatever that, like the sub $20 stuff, right?
Mhm.
But even those are all beautiful. They're beautifully done. But every time they do something like that, they're sure to balance it with a really beautiful setup somewhere, or they send all their real hardcore fans somewhere at some event, or
Mhm.
something that kind of appeals to what made people love that in the first place anyway. So
Mm.
it's a very interesting balance. So it's not just making a bunch of tchotchkes and putting them in the right window,
Mhm.
but providing kind of like an experience for your first 5 fans, and then your first 10, and your first 100, and creating this world for them to keep falling in love with again, I think is really important.
Now I'm inclined to ask, you've mentioned, getting it into the quote unquote right windows, and to like, I mean, you mentioned you like early on you had gotten
Sure.
stuff into the windows
Yeah,
of
we got into
Barney's,
yeah.
like
We went to Barney's and said, like, you can just have this stuff, and they loved it, and we got along great with them. We're like, we need to be in the window long enough to take some pictures. um, that then, because Tower Records understands Barney's a certain way, it may or may not be true, but the buyer at Barney's in Shibuya, which is I'm sorry, the Tower Records in Shibuya was at the time, and I don't know if it still is, but at the time in the early 2000s was where you wanted to be if you wanted to launch character goods. So we launched there before anywhere else.
Wow.
We got into Kittyland because the buyer at Kittyland lives and dies by what Tower Records Shibuya accepts. It's like an acceptance, right?
Wow, really? I would think it's the other way around almost.
I thought so
Kittyland, I
too.
thought was
I couldn't
was
believe what
I
I was
thought that
hearing.
was an institution, but okay.
I know. I don't know if that dynamic touches character goods so much anymore. It's more, at least for now, seems to be just going straight to where your core customer actually loves
Mhm.
to be, and where they feel like they're like, oh, this is my life. When I walk into this department store, and upstairs is I'm going to go buy a bag or a shoes or something, but as I'm walking through here, this is me, right? Like my life is this, and so I'm surrounded by these high-end goods, but they're very adorable, and I love Snoopy, and I like Moomin, and oh, what's this cute thing here? And oh, that's interesting that my favorite store said that this is that it's okay for it to be here. What's this, right?
Right.
And I
But
don't
okay, so like,
sound like you're tricking anyone, but it's like, just you want to
well, no, it's
get into
definitely
the
not
best.
tricking, because ultimately they have to decide yes or no,
Oh
right?
yeah. Well, we're probably the worst. But then in that world, we're like the worst, right? Like Kittyland actually has a grading locate by location, where Kittyland is literally just like the further back you go, the more your brand sucks. Really?
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of other retailers and licensing companies will hear about what you got going, and then they'll go check out where you're placed at. Not all of the Kittylands, because it turns out there's tons. It's actually a chain. But
Really? I've only been to the
the
one across from
Omatsusanda
Shinjuku.
one used to be, at least I don't know now, but it's a grading system. And they'll,
Mm.
okay, so you're about 2/3 of the way up. So I'm going to be paying like this minimum guarantee to get I'll try you out on my umbrellas.
Wow. Okay, that is something I didn't know. Well, okay. I imagine the kind. I mean, like, it's interesting talking to you, because you are obviously you know a large brand. Ugly Doll is not just like a mom and pop kind of like like thing. It's become so much more than this. But like, do you have advice for people who are coming in, who are starting now? Like, have you, through your experience and wisdom, like, kind of like have any ideas or advice for people who are trying to get into maybe the plush game, the designer toy game,
Yes, absolutely.
you know?
My especially now, I think that now it sounds ridiculous, but now is like the time. Now is the time, right? Like right now. like,
Now
like
Right
is the
now,
time.
COVID-19.
well, because I think for the first time in a long time, like you're, and I think about this a lot. There's a lot of creators out there who want to do this, who are also like, ooh, no payday Friday. Huh. How
Mm,
am I going to survive? That's interesting. So they're going through that. And that's sort of like the most important thing on the planet right now. And that's just everybody and to various degrees. But it's also, you have to just, yes, you don't have, like, yes, that's all like coming at you like a freight train, but you're
mm,
also home and you can work
mm,
and you can, now you have to get whatever it is that can be done. Like, it's, if the thing that you want to do involves you sitting down and doing it,
mm,
then this is the best time to start right now. And then all the strategies and all that, once things start to open up again, like if you do want to be in the Japanese character space, go there. It's actually not as expensive as you think. It could be the most
right.
expensive purchase these creators have ever made, but it's like the places I go to. Like I my flight from Korea to including hotel, like would be like a couple $100, and then I ate for, I not on purpose, like trying, but I just didn't really spend any. I just didn't go to any touristy areas, and I
Mm,
had to brave not being able to read anything or just Google Translate everything. It
right.
looks stupid, but you don't. It's not really that expensive to, and just to be there, and to, you can hear about it all day from stuttering people, like, like who can
I
hardly
guess.
get it out in one
Yeah.
sentence, or but you can, reading about it and buying the things, and that it's not the same as going there and seeing it, and seeing that whatever you want to do, to see it actually in the place where it belongs, and to it clicks somehow. It clicks when you're just there,
Mm,
and you'd be surprised how much it clicks when you're standing in if all you ever wanted to do was to have books and plush and character goods at your favorite Japanese bookstore chain,
mm,
and you stand there and you watch how people interact with and interface with everything. it's
mm,
it's, it's it'll change everything. You'll run home and be so energized that no one will be able to stop you. Now you're going to run home and like not stop churning out whatever it is that, because you kind of, something clicked where you think you might got it. And
mm,
hopefully what clicks is that it's just going to take forever.
mm,
It's a very long game. It may take off immediately, and there's strategies to talk about till the cows come home. But
right.
I think if that's specifically what you want to do,
Right.
being there is a good first step, and just watching.
Right. So, I mean, even if, like, say, even if your dream isn't like going to Japan, is just to conquer the United States market.
Sure.
What, like being going to events, going to like stores and stuff like that is basically the same kind of thing. Is would you say?
The Yes, like say you just want to stay local, you just want to stay in the States. The shows can be a great thing, but they can also, in my opinion, be the worst thing, both. And it depends on what it is that you make, and it depends on what it is that your long-term and short-term goals are.
Mm,
Um, the 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 great thing about the shows is that you can get this fan base that always knows where to find you, and it kind of is important. It turns out to physically be there, um, and you can connect with. I mean, if you can get 2,000 fans to each spend $100 on you a year, that's amazing. And if you
right.
can maintain that for an extended period of time, that you're done, right? That's I would be very happy. I would, even half of that. That's incredible. And you, in theory, could do that with shows. But while you're there, I don't know if you're having much of an impact on actual culture. I think you're having. I think you're being. It's almost like a separate universe for me.
Mm,
Um, you're in there, so you're so getting ready for the next show and the next show. And now there are so many. Like Don goes to a show every like twice a day. Right?
Basically, oh, he
There's
was.
hundreds of, yeah. And well, for his world, so yeah, for it depends. Like specifically for that world, you probably do need to go to those shows, but make sure you're also affecting the actual culture where these shows are taking place, because as you see, what if the shows evaporate? Then did all that hard work and your effect on culture evaporate with it? Or is it still there because you're outside of the realm of the walls of that arena?
What
And
do
I
you
think
mean
that's
by
really important.
affecting the culture? Like what like in what way? Or like I mean in like
This was a very happy accident. I did not plan it, but walking into Giant Robot because I loved the magazine and getting along with Eric and getting to know him, that like Sawtell, thanks to Eric, is a massive. He's had a massive impact on culture in general, and he's grown one from nothing.
right,
Right?
right.
He's the mayor of culture, of something that you can feel something now. You can really walk down Sawtell
Mhm.
on one of those warmer days,
Mhm.
and the feeling that you get is actually because of his presence and everything that he's done and the people that show up there, and all of that is because of that one little maneuver of just deciding to go for it,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So no matter, and Eric's always at the Comic Con, and Eric's always at
Mm,
at the whatever shows. But if if he was just doing the shows, it would have a very different meaning to people than that. And then those who exist in that, like our being there early on was a blessing, because it really did mean a lot. Like that place being there meant a lot to a lot of people, and it
mhm,
meant something very specific. And then when you walk in there and you see certain things very carefully displayed a certain way with the right lighting and just his way,
mhm.
right? Um, it's this beautiful experience that people bring home with them, and they want more of that. It's like the first sip of that little beer when you get off work in Japan. There,
But
how
like,
Even if you
how about like the horror flick? Like, do you have advice for like people who are just not just maybe don't have the confidence in themselves when it comes to pimping themselves out to like approach like like people like like how like what like how far along should you be before do you think people should be before they this question could go out to both you and David and Eric, before they kind of like present themselves to stores and like um or like tastemakers, like obviously like you can't just show up there with an idea in your head, but like how far along do you think people should be?
Eric, you've had a lot. I mean, you've had a lot of people coming in who just want to have their work shown, right? And I remember
yeah,
especially a lot of the more recent stories were were,
Those stories are
were
great.
well, it depends on what side of the of standing. If are you standing
yeah.
behind Eric with him in there while these people are coming in, or are you that guy? It depends.
Right,
Oh
it
no,
certainly depends.
it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. But I think y- at least I made a guideline. So I made a little business card guideline that tells people what you can do or what I would expect. But part of it is, having a little bit of experience. Like, if it's art, I'd hope they'd have at least 5 years of experience, because most artists have at least 5 years of experience, right?
Mm.
Uh, do you have 50 or 100 pieces in your style,
5
or are
years is
you,
a lot of
or
time, man.
or are you just starting? Like, are you like doing your 10th piece in your life, and now you're already showing it to me, which is too early, right? Stuff like that. There's a lot of criteria, but I'm starting to realize, I'm like, oh, a lot of people who come to me are just starting, and
Mm.
they haven't executed much at all, and they don't even know what they're really doing, but they're already wanting a show. They're seeing that they want their art on the walls without any kind of much practice, to be dead honest.
Mhm.
So I think I'd like people that have some experience, at least in a lot of work, a lot of time put in, and at least that means there's at least thought process going on. It's not just a quick reaction to something that they saw and they decide to make something and then think it's worthy to be on a gallery wall,
Mhm.
any gallery wall. And I kind of think it's got to be something that's developed over a little bit of time. That's what I hope for anyway. Doesn't have to be, though. That's the thing. All rules can be broken, in my opinion, but that's sort of like a minimum, I think, is that.
Mm.
And then if you look at everyone who's been successful in that realm versus toys or toyetic character realm, it feels like there was always that first thing they did, that first for me, like my first interaction with Takashi Murakami was just walking through what's that, the Rockefeller Center. And he had this huge, it was like in the late 90s or
That
early,
big statue. Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
big, yeah. And at the time, what? This is Rockefeller Center. What's this doing here? What is something like that doing here? Why would that be here? Right? This is the Today Show is right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
What's going on here? It's this beautiful place. I love walking through there. I used to live I used to live in Midtown. I used to do all my homework in the in my at my father's office up in the Olivia and Mather building, and I walked through there afterwards. And whoa, this
Mm-hmm.
what? How do they even know? Do people visiting here know this guy? Then of course you put
Not
it there.
exactly.
But of course you put it there because you're the first of all, you're the first person to put it there, and then who are you going to go tell? I don't know what he did with that, but I imagine that if I found a place in New York City or somewhere where that's the first time someone's ever done that there, and I'm going to make sure I have the next guy know about it. The next thing that I need to occur after this, or writer at the LA Times or New York Times or whatever it, in the arts, whatever it is, for the next thing needs to see, oh wow, what's that doing there? And then, oh, I'd like to write about that. And then while that article is coming out, it's immediately handed to this person who would really love to read about that. And that's interesting. And it kind of has to start, I think, from, and I don't mean just find some blank wall that no one's exploited yet. Like, like the first, like those obese stickers
Mm-hmm.
were, oh, that, but then now you can, New York is mostly stickers. You don't see them anymore, right? So you have to kind of you have to find your place that you exist in, I think, and it has to be yours, and not just to be different or edgy, but like not to put a giant, you know. In Korea, there's this one giant mall called the Coex, and a lot of character designers were putting giant inflated versions of their characters on the top of the mall so that a lot of people would see them when they walk by. But then that was it. That was the thing. And that's not what Murakami did, in my opinion, in right next to the Today Show, right? That was the first little pinprick in a very well laid out path that he had set out to I think. And I don't that after that I don't know. And then it's just really guessing. But
Right.
that to me felt like the first of many very purposeful maneuvers, not shady or tricky or any kind of cheesy, but like it was this beautiful experience to find that there. And I'll never forget that. Right now, if I find something there, well, it's the Pokemon store, but you don't, it's not the same formula. You're going to have to find your place, whether that's a shop that means something to people or a little shop that means nothing to anyone, or it's yours, or you start doing something on some corner somewhere or something then that belongs to you, and not just ta-da, okay, now can I be a show and giant robot, but like that you're doing that because now that's you, and you have the next thing ready and the next thing ready, and you're doing that because you love doing that. You would do that forever if no one was looking, but it's yours.
Speaking of, doing something that you love, like, can you map out the very beginnings of Ugly Doll and how it, from the mythology is that, it started off as just a little doodle that you did on, between with letters to your now wife.
Sure, of course.
And then, like, how did it evolve from doodles to a plush, and then from a plush to a mass production plush?
Sure, but I think it was way even before that when I first met Sunmin. I just it was in that first drawing class where we met, and we were supposed to draw a nude model, and I'm just terrible at all of that. Like I shouldn't have even been there, really. But so I drew the same pose, but it was like one of the same, like it would look like Bobo or whatever, like whatever the known ugly dolls are, like pre ugly doll looking thing in the
Mhm.
same pose, right?
Mhm.
And she kind of looked over, and the teacher said something about ugly and whatever that, but there's that story, but then just me and Sunmin and I exchanging sketchbooks, and I started looking through her sketchbook, and she had stuff pulled out of Japanese video game magazines and clipped stuff from character stuff from Korea that were in there, and a lot of like alien UFO stuff, and like in Japan, a lot of that Mothman and Flatwoods Monster and all those are enormously popular. It's all classified under UMA, which means uh, uh, something unidentified mysterious animal, right?
Mm.
So anytime you go to a Japanese bookstore since the 90s until now, there's at least some UMA books that are there that have every single little guy in there. It's like this. I don't know why it's still. I maybe it's popular or they just do that for a few hundred people, but it's just
I
always
love
been.
that shit.
Yeah.
I love that shit. So, but
Remember the Metacom series where they had them at GR1 when you like in the early days. But Metacom made little figures of all those little funny Uma stories like Mothman and the
Was it
Holocaust
Metacom?
Theory and all that shit, right?
Was it Metacom or was it Kyoto or something? Might have been
Kyoto did some later, but Metacom
Kyoto did some too.
they were called the Mystery Museum series.
Was that Metacom?
Yeah, and it was
Okay.
like the
We had
Philadelphia
that,
Experiment and
Yep.
like with the half boat thing disappear. It was crazy. It was
Yeah.
coast to coast subject matter was
Coast to coast.
yeah. And so I found all that stuff in her sketchbook. I'm like, what you know what the Flatwoods Monster is? Like how do you have this? Like so I think are really hitting it off and having kind of like pretty much the exact same interests. Although I had no idea what K-pop was at all, so that was new for me. Like Finkel and HOT, High Five of Teenager, all that stuff. Like I was really early.
Wow.
And, but that kind of shared interest and putting that universe together, the two of us together since like 98, I think was a really big part of it. And then the actual building of it once we dropped those first few off at Giant Robot.
You dropped off like actual like you guys like hand stitched a bunch some ugly dolls or
Sunman did the first box of I don't know how many there were really the very first few, maybe only 4 or 5. I don't really remember.
Kind of forgot, man.
The first there was like 4 Wage and 1 Babo or something like that, and I used to have that cam where I would just run home and then watch to see if anyone picks them up or whatever.
Oh, we had a live cam in the store?
Yeah, you had a
Oh,
live
I forgot all about that. Yeah, you're right.
It was more like a fast slideshow, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Wow.
And that was I don't know if you still have it, but there was the chime when you walk in the Irashi.
The Japanese chime.
Yeah,
I have it somewhere, but I don't use it anymore.
And this was like when Groove Visions had those little figures, and it was like the Super Flat Show had just occurred, and that was the timing of all of this, right?
Yep.
And man, those first few that they were just gone, and I couldn't believe it. So I think, but the really meaningful drop for me was like the second or the third time when we walked in, and I had way more, like maybe 15 of them, and this finally she bought a sewing machine. She had done the first 20 or so just actually by hand.
Wow.
These are the first things that she ever sewed ever. Like the first Wage, the orange Uglydoll was the first thing that she ever sewed just ever. So she didn't own a sewing machine. So after I think there was that first box where that we could, she could make more because she had the actual machine. And Kate Capshaw was at the register and turned it around and said like, "Oh, what are these things?" I thought, "Oh no, anything goes. Please don't buy all these. I want them to go sit on the. I want them to sit on the shelf." He's like, "Wow, look at all these. Are they part of one set?" I don't want you to buy these. I want them to sit there for like a week, because I thought that was it. Like that was the thing, was these existing there and being there and man, that was a huge that I still like whatever came after that had the greatest impact, I think, where those first few times where they were actually sitting there and people were walking by them and interfacing with them and interacting with them. Somehow that was the time. Like everything else, I can tell you the whole story. Oh, this happened and that happened. And I think a lot of it is strategy, but it was just random chance and just there's people like them. But that being there and people really enjoying them and them ending up meaning something to people. And then like the ugly cons that we did very early on, and in San Francisco, there was like a little bit of an upset because it was like a long. So like but even those upsets and like oh right, I should have made more of this and maybe I did too much of that, and those were like those little things were like the real treasures. And I think because that's what we were so into, that kind of gave us the fuel to pay more attention to and more care into where everything else went, because we wanted that feeling. We just wanted to keep feeling like that, right?
How soon after like the creation of these plushes did you kind of realize like, okay, this is something that we can take much, much higher?
It was when we went beyond, because we were with Eric in LA. There was a furniture store on La Brea. I don't remember the name. Plastic something. They had kind of like kids designer furniture and French wooden toys, and then a few Brio things, and then our stuff. And then they had like a Mumble Boy doll or something.
Oh, what store was that?
Maybe Plastica? Is that the name of it? I don't
remember.
I know that sounds familiar. It's on La Brea.
There was one, I think.
There were a lot of really special stores that were like really nice independent stores opening up around the U.S. around that time. So.
Yeah, so I remember one thing about Ugly Dolls that I thought was also important was, even if it was handmade, you went for a lower price point that might have made it where, I don't know, dollars to time was probably not really good, right? It was probably like maybe a push, like maybe you made no money with those.
No,
really,
it was
right?
lost. Yeah, it was a loss leader for sure.
Yeah, which is kind of a interesting, but that's an interesting kind of a risk or way to go at it at that time, because that's the very beginning.
Sure.
But you did undercut any other plush maker that was trying to do handmade plush.
Right.
You actually were so much lower in price than the next closest, because we were carrying plush by other people.
Yes, I remember.
I think Friends with You might have I've even had their plush at the time.
Sure, yeah.
And those are $60 plus type of thing, 60, 70. I think yours was 30 maybe at the time, or something 30, like that.
Yes.
They were 30, right? The Ugly Doll, and it was handmade.
Yes.
So therefore they sold like crazy right away, whereas the other plush kind of sat on the shelf. And I did sell them.
Yeah.
I sold the other plush, but yours was all of a sudden became super hot because of that.
Right. I think
I don't know if that had any. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Well, I would say so for sure.
That's a risk to take as a young person. Usually you're thinking, okay, loss leader is just a very difficult thing to accept in the very beginning. Usually people are thinking, I gotta get something.
Hey, the first many times that I dropped those off, I didn't even want you to see, but I was on the bus. All right, I took the RTD. I don't know what they call it now, but
Metro?
that was
RTD was it Rapid Transit District RTD?
Yeah. So I took the bus from I was in my mom's house in Manhattan Beach for the first few, and I had to change at that LAX switchy changey where you stand all night. You know that one?
Oh, we knew you were sketchy. That's okay.
Yeah. But I had to like wet. You get the sweat to come on, so I could walk in like, oh, no problem. I just came in. These are out of my trunk, like that. Fake. That.
Oh, we knew you were weird. It was perfect. We already knew.
Yeah,
you weren't hiding anything. Like, you didn't do a good job. You didn't hide a thing, but it's okay.
Just walk around the first corner, then go down to Olympic.
It's okay.
On a side street. But everything went into being able to do that, because that was the best. That was the thing that we always wanted to do, and that was the best expression and the best case scenario of what we've always wanted to do. Because when we were in school, we always wanted to make toys and tell stories through toys, but we didn't want to work for a toy company, and we didn't picture our stuff on the shelf at a mass market toy,
like a KB Toys or whatever, or Toys
right.
R Us.
And mass market was very different back then, right? It's actually I love mass market now. Like I think Target is brilliant and they're genius. And even
you actually go to Target a lot.
Even Walmart here. I don't know over there, but over here it's nice.
Well, what do you look for?
Walmart, well, I have no problems with Walmart, but the Walmart by me is kind of shady. So.
No, but I mean, we're changing topics a little bit. You go to Target, you go to Walmart a lot. Right. What are you looking for today? Like when you go there?
Well, it's because it's the ultimate pulse on what, well, especially here, because here that's all there is. There's no giant robot. There's no giant, everything's no. So there's no charming street to walk down. There's one neighborhood that was literally designed by the guy who designed Brentwood, where it in an eerie way looks exactly like it, and you walk down there and it's like just this. There's Starbucks and like some cool shoe store that someone with money just does as a hobby, but there's no so that's all there is. So it's a place where I've always gone to kind of check what everyone's doing on a larger scale. Like, okay, so what's happening with character culture and kids in North America, right? A Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol has a whole thing, and then they have end caps. Oh, Ryan's toy review took everyone's lunch. Okay, that's interesting, right? Those things have also always made me crazy. Like I I don't have as much of a desire to exist in that space myself, but I love the dynamics involved. I love going over to my friend Darren Phillipson, who is in Alpha Toys in El Segundo, and just hearing. He invited me to talk at that toy company. And I was like, yeah, I'll talk for you if you then let me poke around and let me see the whole place, because I love the mechanics and the wheels and the gears behind the machine of mass toy culture and pop culture, right? Because that's what I grew up on. Like I loved the toy line from Hasbro so much because it was like these these are the guys who made Darth Vader. Like they're still making Darth Vader. In fact, our packaging and Darth Vader's packaging was the same when ours came out last year. Like these kind of weird tubes that did, right? So I've always been in love with that. Not as much as real character culture, which is not really even per se for children in Japan, but
Right.
that's always been a big draw for me. But when we first started, that was not an option. It was not. I think they had elevated that whole business tremendously. I think they'd done a fantastic job of. I don't like it that because like there are no more specialty toy stores. There are no more specialty mom and pop stores in general.
Right.
So why? Because the big box guys came in, and then the big box guys got hammered by online and so on and so on, right?
Mm.
But in the last few years, I've been quite impressed by at least what they've done with it has been pretty remarkable. Like from just as a quasi designer or someone interested in design and in the dynamics of why certain things suddenly disappear, and you know the Dwayne Johnson toys came 6 months too early because the movies held back, and all that stuff. I love that. I love that.
Wait, so like, well, how far between the first hand stitched ugly doll to you going to I'm assuming Chinese factory? Like, what was there? Was it like a year or something like that before you're like, you know what? Okay, we're at a point where like this needs to be
Sure.
taken to the next level.
Yeah, that was during the very first year. I went from Manhattan Beach to then sleeping on my sister's floor, and then I would just take the bus over the hill to drop them off at Eric's place, right? And then ship a couple of them to New York to that Zaka, the place on Grand Street. Um, but Eric got like 9 out of 10 of them went to Giant Robot, and Sunman would have to go get more fabric, and this fabric that we were using was very uncommon there. I mean, it kind of looks like fleece, but there's something really, it's like off. Weird fleece is weird ugly cousin, right? And she went there, and suddenly there was less, and she's like, well, where's all the different colors that I like using? What's going on? And he said, oh, well, why? What do you keep going after this fabric for? And she's like, oh, I make dolls with this. And he's like, this is not doll fabric. I'm getting rid of this. This is not even popular. This is like one of my worst selling fabrics that I've ever we're not producing these anymore. So we found out who was producing them. Like he was buying them. Whoever he got the fabrics from was going to discontinue them.
Mm.
We found out that it was actually a factory owned. It's based in Korea, but then all the production that they do is in China. And I think in the 80s or whenever it was, they used to be the factory that did everything for Rust Trolls. Remember the trolls with the hair? And so we connected with that guy, and we connected with a guy in New Jersey to handle all the sales and the logistics. And we knew that we needed to go from being in Giant Robot and hand sewing, and we needed to skip the step where you like use, back then it was Fulfill Co. I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore. There was no Dove quite yet. Um, so
Right.
there,
GE, Dove, yeah.
the actually it's a great time to start again, because now all the options that are available, like Barnes and Noble up until a couple weeks ago was starving for really cool funky stuff that they need, because they're not only a bookstore anymore, right?
Right.
So go to the guy, the Dove sold everything to, or is still working.
Dispersed.
Yeah, yeah. So like they're finding great distributors, or working with guys who have an in at maybe certain shops could be a one avenue. I don't know, but anyway, that wasn't really a thing when
Mhm.
in 2002,
Right.
2003. So we made a partnership with a guy who had a warehouse in New Jersey and could easily ship to, specialty. Set up a booth at Toy Fair, like a really tiny booth in the back corner of the New York Toy Fair in February 2003. And we hadn't made anything yet. We just had the prototypes hanging on the wall, and we just took orders from who we just stood there, and then little mom and pop shops would come by, and then they would get excited and they would send over their buddies who also owned stores, and it kind of just went from there.
Wow.
And
So you took the leap, like, okay, so you found the factory who was making the material,
right.
and that factory also was in the business of production,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
and then you took the leap and, like, you know what, like, let's get into New York Toy Fair. Let's,
Mhm.
like, start, like, like, if we're going to do this, let's go all the way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what all the way meant. It meant spending every penny we've ever saved to get this tiny booth, and this tiny booth, print out some pamphlets, and now we have another guy in New Jersey on the phone for if like these 17 stores actually do call. I mean, they wrote down, we had like little cheesy purchase order sheets that were all wrong. Now I realize, but terrible. But whatever. That we were able to get orders, and then we would really look into their stores. It wasn't just like, well, well, KB did eventually come by, like I think our third or fourth Toy Fair,
Right.
and the guy's like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? No, I can't have them. I mean, if you don't sell them to me, I'm just gonna make them anyway. So you might as well sell to me. I'm like, "Oh, what?" That was
Whoa.
so. Yeah. So they're gone now, so I can say that allegedly. Allegedly, I
They're
guess.
gone.
Yeah, I think they're gone now.
They're
Oh,
gone.
the guy who
They're
owns
gone.
the brand is gonna call me. Well, whatever.
Mhm.
That to the best of my recollection,
Right. Right.
it exactly went that way. And
Wow.
and then yeah, just that first Toy Fair, there was 17 shops, but then miraculously, really, those shops that received them were out of them immediately, like immediately. And we had a little incident where everything that came over had a very sharp crease on them,
Mm.
and the guy had by that time had a very special connection with Sunmin and her mom. They were going over there all the time, and he felt so bad. So we kind of ended up with way more than we expected. Like he just sent them again, but then by that time the crease like just came out by itself. Miraculously, they healed like 2 months later. So we were able to fulfill these first few orders, and this is before any kind of sales team or anything. It was really just a couple of phones, but miraculously, I mean, really, it was not us being clever, and it was not us being so smart. It was really just us chasing the fact that these really did sell very well, and sold very quickly, especially back then. We didn't need to spend money on advertising, and we didn't, I mean, we were careful about where they went into, and I guess we were smart about walking up and down New York City and really making sure that like if Forbidden Planet had them, then we can't let any other stores have them for the next few blocks because they
Sure.
get upset, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's as deep as we had to get with it, really. It wasn't some trick, you know, except for getting into Tower Records Shibuya. There was
You
no,
think luck had a lot to play with your general success?
yeah, it was lucky that they sold that quickly, that people liked them. Because if we were making something that people didn't like so much, which is a lot of stuff I make, that it wouldn't it wouldn't work. So at the end, it really is also you can have it all figured out, or you think you do, like I think I do, and then you're just okay. But at least you know how to be the just okay guy in that universe. If that's the universe you're dying to,
Better to be number 2 than number 1, right?
There
sure.
it is. There it is.
I think he meant the number. I think yeah, I think that's right.
Or second
Wow.
place. It's better to be second place than first, or whatever.
So we were absolutely lucky. It was all luck because we didn't know. I mean, at the end of the day, people have to come up to it and go, I want to buy this, please." Like that, if that's the world you want to live in, right?
Mhm.
That's what I mean. That's what drives it to be able to.
Well, just think, even at GR store, you weren't the first plush in the store. Just
No,
imagine
no.
I have a shop that had a lot of books and little kind of arty stuff from Japan, maybe. I had other plush, and you were not the first plush. You were the second
No,
or
no,
third.
no.
Yeah, you were the second or third, literally. So
There was this one. They were beautiful. They did these huge ones.
you want me to drop their name?
I can't remember.
I know. It's Dynamoville.
Oh, Dynamoville. Yes.
And they were probably like the original art plush,
Art
maybe,
plush,
as far
yes.
as I know, the original art plush, and I
Yes.
was selling that. But that was like a thing. But those were like anywhere from
Dynamoville. Them
They-
and
they
then
were-
in New
they were a
York
lot of
City,
money.
Mumble Boy had a whole.
I sold Mumble
What was
Boy
his name?
too.
Kenya something.
Yes,
I forgot.
yeah, Hanada or something.
Yeah, right.
Kenya Hanada.
He was way early. Like I remember
Sure.
seeing his stuff in the '90s, and
Yeah.
it was like a kind of a staple at these few places.
Yeah, those existed, and then maybe I might have had Friends with You, but that might have been later. That probably was later.
Yeah, but
actually.
not much later. Like maybe
Yeah.
a year
Yeah,
or less.
that was about it. There you are. You were right there. So
Yeah, but I remember like right after Friends with You had that TT burger, like the piece of meat.
that
guy.
was a little later because they had another one, Malfi, the
Mouth,
one that
yes,
looked
the
like
black like a penguin.
Malfi. I have
Very
a couple
cool.
of those. Yeah.
very cool character. Yeah,
That's right.
We had the handmade one. They were handmade too, I think.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah, I have a for like 1 or 2 Friends with You pieces I have. It has the tag that says handmade.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
Not that all of it isn't handmade, because someone in China is making that shit by hand.
Sure. I mean, technically, ours are made by hand. I didn't want to go there with a handmade, designed in
Yeah.
California.
Yeah. You know what, though, like it does give, if you did go with the tag, it would have given like those particular first hand few, handmade ones a certain, provenance that like,
those that are in the know, the collectors know which are handmade,
Yeah, they do.
and which are machine made, which are made in a factory, and they know everything by every era.
Yeah.
Color of fabric, tone of fabric, everything.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
amazing.
believe it.
Even size. I mean, there's the hardcore collectors. They know everything.
Those are
It's
awesome.
amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
I love them. Actually, they're amazing.
So a lot of it, if you want to make a product, then yeah, it's luck, because no matter how you promote something, people like it, or at least do they fall in love with who's making it, and if you're something that they can really believe in, like like is Tom's shoes the best looking, best, most comfortable shoe out there ever? I don't know, but what you saw there, with backed by, then you read into why it's there and what it means at the time when it first started, that together with that was enough, right?
So that mediocre shoe actually feels a little better.
Yeah,
It's mediocre, man, at best.
Oh yeah, okay, like right. You now feel
it feels a little better, right? Because you read it, you read into it. I get it, right? That's kind of how it works.
Right.
Is that supposed to be the most comfortable shoe in the world? Shoe?
It can't be. No.
There's some gray shoe that's supposed to be the most comfortable shoe in the fucking world. I never wore it. I have no idea.
Those are Crocs, man.
Hey guys, it looks like we're at 2 hours.
Yeah, man.
Dave, I could like talk to you for hours.
Well, we'll have Dave again.
Yes, we need to have you again soon, because there's so many questions. Just because, like, you're like my senpai. Like I've got so many like things I want to learn about, like how your career is, because you've tried so many things. What, the first time I met you, I think I saw you. I know I definitely saw you. I'm not sure if I met you, but I saw you was when
Back room at Target.
no, when you
Sorry
were
about that.
hanging that photo show at
Wait,
GR2.
wait, bathroom at Target?
No, the back room. The back room.
Oh, I thought you said bathroom.
Oh, the bathroom? No,
I
I would
was like,
remember that.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, that's
That wasn't
weird.
him. That wasn't Luke.
Oh, that's
No,
weird.
no.
Okay, the photo show. Okay,
Yeah, the photo show. Do you remember the
Yes,
photo
the
show?
photo
Yeah.
show. Right.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
right.
So,
That's right.
that was like, I think 2004, 2005, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, it had like big like photographic prints of, the ugly dolls and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa.
Well,
Yeah.
Cool.
but since then, from that time till now, I mean, your career has gone. It's phenomenal, and you are way more the senpai to many out there than I am to you.
Wow. You're
Boom.
seriously, you're still my senpai, and I have so many things I would love to talk to you in the near future. So we will definitely have to have you back on, David.
Anytime.
With this system, we could actually get a fourth person and a fifth and so forth.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we can always find another senpai. Who's all of our senpais? We can get them.
Yes.
So we
Oh,
can make that
man.
happen.
Then I wouldn't be all
Yeah.
alone in that little chat on the corner there.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
All I see is our tiny little boxes, of us until whoever's talking just blows up onto the screen.
Oh, you have it set that way. You could set it where all three are on at the same time, and it never
really?
changes. Yeah, that's how I
wow.
have it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would have been great because then I wouldn't have seemed like
So
such a
it's
loud
recorded and projected onto YouTube, and all three are always the same size.
Oh,
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
gallery
They're-
view.
like the Brady
Yeah.
Bunch.
There it is.
So we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
6 people.
Yeah, so you can actually have a fourth or fifth or whatever. We can do it any which way we want.
Oh,
Okay.
that was the Star Trek guys did that. Yeah. Never mind.
Did. I'm trying to imagine like an episode of Star Trek.
yeah.
anyway.
Remember that one?
But-
No, that's how I found out about Zoom. It was like all the Next Generation guys did it at the same time. Then they screen grabbed it.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay. Why does everyone hate Picard? I have not seen the show.
Oh, I don't know. I liked that Captain Riker. Oh, you haven't seen any of it?
I haven't seen any of it.
I haven't
There's
seen it.
like, I think I honestly just like it because it was like a show I loved in high school and in the 90s. And just it's nice to see them again because I'm feeling older and they're older. Here we are. Yay.
Yes.
But maybe
Well, there's enough channels now for that to serve you exactly, right?
yeah.
There's enough channels for shows to be made to serve exactly our age and not younger, not older.
That's
You know,
right.
there's-
true.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like we've been getting. I almost feel like we got this weird send off, right? Like all the that one last Terminator, that one last the Star Trek now, that
And
one last
Star Wars.
Yeah, like all one right. There's been like kind of like a one more time of all this stuff,
Yep.
and then now we're dealing with this.
And
So,
we got coronavirus, and then
I
coronavirus
know.
just comes and crashes the party.
I know we almost got that
Wow.
Matrix. Oh well, next time.
We'll have to talk more though about it because there's more to talk about probably sooner than later. We'll see. If we're in here for months, we'll be talking again sooner.
We'll be talking again soon for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But David, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
How
you
can
much.
people
Thank you,
find
guys.
you, just in case they have no idea who you are?
Oh yeah, that's a lot of people. right.
But like, how can what's your social? What? How can we find you on social media?
Okay. So man, what is it again? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have followers on Instagram. DavidHorvath.com goes to my Instagram. And then, but every time I post, I've been stuck at like 8,700 people. And every time I post something, I lose 3. And if I don't post anything for like a week, if I don't say anything, then 3 more will come back. It's weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me see.
So it's funny. So I don't know if they should go there. Maybe. But that's that. I think DavidHorvath.com goes to my Instagram. And
Booyah.
then
That's
I
good enough.
am at David Z Horvath on Twitter.
Facebook.
But
You
that's
use
mostly
Facebook, right?
What's that?
Facebook too. Facebook.
Oh yeah.
page?
Yeah.
You're active
Facebook,
on there.
there's an Ugly Dolls page that I have. I think it's the Ugly Dolls page, or you can just follow me. Yeah, I don't need to be a friend. I ran out of friend things, but you can just follow me on there.
Just delete a bunch. Make some
Yeah,
space.
just go there. Yeah. I don't recognize you. Da, da, da.
I think the next Ugly Doll. I just looked at the Ugly Doll Instagram, and I think I'm gonna, and I think you got to put your foot down on humans not being in the ugly doll world.
Sure. Yeah. I wish more on that soon.
I know.
Coming right up. More on that soon.
On that note, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Dude,
everyone. who
everybody
came.
stay
Thanks,
safe,
Ken Bolton,
everybody.
Stay healthy,
for
everybody.
being on Mandarake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for anyone who listens from Japan too. Because I know you have a lot of. Maybe Don will listen. Maybe there'll be some folks listening from Japan.
He's going to be like,
Thank you much.
I could have been disagreeing that whole time. I should have stayed up.
It's okay.
He is so wrong. Oh.
Thank you to thank you to the Ugly Nation, right? The Ugly Nation.
Ugly
Thank
Nation?
you to them.
Ugly Nation.
Yeah, thank
You
you.
didn't get to see how many people. No, it doesn't matter.
Lovely. All right, see you guys.
Okay,
care.
guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Are we off?